Well, hello, everyone. I'm Reverend Karla. Welcome to Spirituality Matters. And now I invite you to settle in and find that sacred space between here where I am and there where you are. And let us be reminded that the holy transcends our physical bodies, and our time together is just as sacred and meaningful as if we were sitting beside one another. Okay, let's get started. Today's podcast is titled When Darkness Comes, Embracing the Wisdom of the Autumn Equinox. Now, this podcast is coming to you right after the podcast on summertide and the importance of noticing the seasonal changes. So obviously there's a little theme going on here, but these are two significant energy shifts, and they have spiritual meaning for you, especially for those of you who are seeking a spiritual but not religious path, and you're looking for meaning and understanding in your life and how we are connected, sacredly connected to creation. So there is wisdom here. There is healing here. And the fall is a big, big energy time for me. So maybe that's why I spend a little bit more time with this time of year. But most likely because it holds the birth of my month in October. But the season that also signals rest is something that we tend to ignore. As a child, I always looked forward to the first day of fall. And of course, like I said, my reasons were entirely selfish, because I always anticipated, like everybody else does, the arrival of my birthday month. And so always I would get excited when the air turned cold and the leaves started to brown and the flowers started to die back. It didn't depress me at all. Some people really don't like that time of the year, but I absolutely love it. Now, I don't recall a time in my life that was significant that said, okay, I stopped looking at my birthdays through just the lens of a child wanting to grab all the gifts and have all the gifts in the world and have all the attention on me, to a more contemplative and reflective and introspective birthday. But I certainly did. It arrived one birthday in my early 40s with a desire to connect to my ancestors. And I remember just being like, I just didn't want to be around anybody else but family. And I wanted to go do a deep journey into my heritage. So to do that, I graciously declined all my birthday greetings and all my birthday invitations. And I set out for the southern part of the state, where that's where my family was from. And I knew I needed to go find, the first place I wanted to visit was my great-great-grandmother's grave, because I knew to get to that, I was also going to pass by the place which was her homestead. So there was going to be a lot of memories and a lot of energy for that place for me. And I have the privilege and the honor of having memories of both of my great-grandmothers on my father's side and on my mother's side. And I know there are people who don't even have memories of their grandparents, let alone their great-grandparents, but I do. And I also have the memory of one great-grandfather, and he was very quiet and unassuming, but he was a gentle of a human being. And I really enjoyed that time with him. But my great-grandmothers impacted my life. I was between 10 and 12 when they passed, but I still remember being fascinated, especially with my great-great-grandmother. I would sit by her or stand by her. I have a picture of me as a child standing beside her as she is talking. She had a lot of opinions on things, and I just loved to watch her talk. She used her hands a lot, as I'm doing in this video, as I'm talking to you right now. And she had these amazing hands with so many veins. As I'm looking at my hands right now, I certainly have my great-grandmother's hands. I have my grandmother's hands. I have my mother's hands. They were definitely passed down to me with all the veins. And for the longest time, I didn't like them. But now, as I've aged, I realize the importance to my ancestral heritage and how I'm honored to be at this time in my life with still life ahead of me, God willing, and these hands that still work and are vital to who I am. So I spent time honoring her heritage and her connection to my life. And then later that day, I drove down the road a little bit and I invited my mother to meet me to do a flower planting ceremony. And anyone who does any type of gardening, it doesn't matter if it's all you have is the ability to create a plant, a potted plant on your balcony, or if you can get down on your hands and knees and really touch the earth. Touching the earth is healing. No matter what time of the year you do it, being connected to that life-giving sustenance, which is the topsoil that where all of life is generated, is so important. And she and I took part in this great community planting, which were going to be the flower bulbs that would bloom in the spring. So we weren't going to see them now, but there was something healing about doing that, to plant something that life on into perpetuity would see these flowers. And it was for an area of our community where things had been neglected, and the town had come together, and all these people had shown up to plant flowers along the walkways and the roadways. And you can go several years later, 20 years later, to be exact, because this coming birthday, I will be celebrating my 60th birthday. So I am holding space for that and celebrating very much with gratitude and love for that birthday that's coming up. But here's what I want to say to you. More often than not, your ancestors are calling you. Oftentimes we ignore it because we're too busy. But this birthday that I'm describing to you now was the first time I really paid attention to who I am and how I'm connected to my past, because they've left breadcrumbs for us, beloved. They left them all along the way. And it's so important that we connect with that, because it also reminds us of how we've changed and grown. And I know that you can see that in your own life. And our birthdays are a perfect time for us to stop and pause and think about where we are now and where we've come from. And maybe not make it, I'm not judging you for having the big parties, and I'm not judging you for wanting to celebrate your life in the biggest largesse that you ever want to do. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But pausing for a moment to be reminded of who you are now and where you've come from is a sacred spiritual practice. And like I said, for those of us who are looking for ways to be spiritual but not religious, and to create sacredness around our lives, this is a great ritual for you to start. I even encourage you to create a birthday journal. And this is a birthday journal that you only get out once a year. And maybe you ask yourself a couple of questions. That's really good. I think I might have to include this as something that I'll send our subscribers, which, by the way, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you email us at info@numasoul.com, because coming very soon, there's going to be a lot of exclusive content that's just going to be available to us, our subscribers. And I think that would be a great gift to our subscribers, is to give them some questions to consider around their birthday. And like I said, it doesn't all have to be ritualized. And another thing I want to say is rituals should never be forced. If you noticed, when I really felt the desire to go visit my great-grandmother's grave and to spend time with my heritage, it wasn't something I was forced to do. I was longing to do this. I was awakened to something inside me that needed to remember my past. But anytime you start to feel like you're forcing ritual, it's coming from a place of obligation and responsibility that doesn't belong in spirituality. Now, that doesn't mean that, oftentimes I might get up to do my practice and it's like, well, I'm a little tired. I'd like to stay in bed a little longer. That's not the same thing. I think you know what I'm saying. If it feels more healing for you to do nothing for your birthday except to spend time with your friends, then that's exactly what your soul needs. You can also do these kinds of rituals around the autumn equinox, around the summer solstice, different things like that. You start to develop, as long as you're paying attention to how time is going by and how the seasons change and how the seasons of your life changes, then you also start to see those places where you can add ritual and sacredness that's meaningful to you. The key here is to know this: the balance of living with joy comes from understanding that no one's life is always filled with golden light. In other words, we can't stay in a place of celebration all the time, because darkness does come. And that's what the time of the fall, autumn equinox teaches us. Because sometimes when darkness comes into our lives, we're often blindsided by it, whether it's through a sudden death or a sudden tragedy, a job loss, someone has deceived us, something like that, where we've been blindsided. But when it comes to our natural progressing of age and time, we often forget that it's just as meaningful to stop and honor that. So we can do this also by connecting with Earth, with creation, that of which we are a part of and that which sustains our life. So when we look no further than creation to find that space of ritual in our lives, we understand that the earth seasons have always been an invitation to pause for breath and reconnect with our soul and remember who we are. And the autumn equinox is one of those times, beloved. So yes, I blended my birthday with that because so many of you have fall birthdays, and so many of you are looking for ritual. So that's one way that I always spend time during the fall season. But what I want to ask you today is, will you accept the invitation to pause, reconnect, and remember? If you just think about that when you're thinking about ritual in your life, pause, reconnect, and remember, what moments in your life would you like to create that ritual of pause, reconnect, and remember? Because they're out there for you. And the autumn equinox, when we have equal light and day on that day, and then in the northern hemisphere, we start turning to darkness. That continues to happen until we reach the winter solstice, when the darkness overcomes the light. The autumn equinox reminds us that one cannot exist without the other. In other words, day and night will always happen in our lives, every 24-hour cycle. That is a reflection of our own lives. And how do we honor it? The light reminds us that the love we share is the healing balm, whether that's with our family, with our friends, with our community, however, with our circle of influences and circle of sacred relationships. But the dark reminds us of rest, reflection, restoration. It also reminds us that nothing stays the same. This day is for you, beloved. Pause, reconnect, and remember. Now, if your birthday happens to fall between now and the autumn equinox, may it be a blessing to you, dear one. And may the autumn equinox bless you in some way to help you remember who you are by simply pausing, reconnecting, and remembering. Blessed be. Hey, beloveds, I'm honored to be in this space with you, and I pray you receive something. I know I did, because the teacher teaches what she needs to hear, and it's such a joy to reflect on my birthday experience that changed my life. And now, beloveds, go in peace and be at peace. Go in love, and may you be loved. Go and know that others are on this journey with you, and you are not alone. You are seen and deeply and unconditionally loved, just as you are. Blessings on your week, and I will see you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to another uncut episode of Spirituality Matters. To submit questions to Rev Karla, email us at spiritualitymatters@revkarla.com. Follow at Rev Karla on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest for more spirituality teachings. Check out her blog posts at revkarla.com and sign up for email alerts while you're there so you don't miss a thing. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. Bye for now.